later. Um, like we said, in this group, everybody who is connected to Zambia and Dola, the migration story out of India is all out of trying to make ourselves better off, economic betterment, families from India, entrepreneurs, everybody on this call in some shape or form were entrepreneurs who came to Zambia to hopefully make their family lives better. And this is the journey I want to speak about our family and how did that begin for us. And today I'm in the UK and we have family across the US. You know, it all comes from a starting point. And I'm going to go back to my great grandfather, Tulsi Dada. And it starts with Tulsi Dada, who, and we were a farming family in a village in Gujarat called Sarai. So our family originally comes from Sarai near Navsari, and that's where my great grandfather was a farmer. And the normal story with all migrations is we had lots of children, small land, economically we had to find new places where we can go and hopefully make our families better off. It started with my eldest dada, that was Parsotam Dada, who left India in 1930. And the migration starts in 1930, where my great grandfather borrowed 10 pounds. We didn't have 10 pounds back then. He borrowed 10 pounds, gave it to the eldest Dada, and he said, off you go, Africa, like most of us, right? And he went by the steamboat back in the days into Beira. And when he got to Beira, he took the rail into Andola. So my Dada, who's also Chitunana's there, and Rushab is on this call, that's the eldest Dada from our family. So he was the one who started this whole process, which led eventually later on for others to follow. But it had to start with somebody. And the person we acknowledge in our family today is Parsotam Dada, because he was the one who first came out of India, and the sacrifices that he made back in 1930 is has to be remembered by our family in what's happened since then. Um, the story goes that when he first came to Zambia, uh, back in the days, he had to work for food and accommodation. So there was no pay. And at least for the first 2 or 3 years, when he was in Zambia, he was working and he was not earning, but all he got was food and accommodation. And again, when you think about these things, and my great grandfather was expecting some money to come back to repay the debt of 10 pounds that he had borrowed, it became pressure. So obviously, over time, he started earning, and he brought it up at that time, and he started working within the family. So Patel Silk Stores is where he came and he started working. So my Foima was married there, and so Bharat Kaka, Jagu Kaka, we have all the cousins. That is all family, and that's where Dada went first. My grandfather came to Zambia much later. That was Gopal Bhai Tulsi Bhai Bhatta, also known as Gopal Das, and he was quite active in bhajans with the bhajan mandals with everybody in Zambia. So that was my Dada. He also worked, and eventually between Parsotam Dada and my grandfather Gopal Bhai, they also started a shop. So it took a long while before they got to that stage. Um, Next is the kids and my ma. They were left in India for a while because nobody knew what would happen and were they going to make it, and were they going to be in a position to support a family. But eventually my grandmother was brought to Zambia, and my dad Surendra Bhatta also came to Zambia late in the late 40s. um, he studied there. Everybody's gone through the apartheid times. He went to Zimbabwe to study at Founders. So he's a Founders boy. And what he wanted to do was become a doctor. However, the economic situation back then meant my grandfather told him, absolutely not. You cannot go and study anymore. You will have to start working and you have to start contributing to the house. So that's my dad. And they had a great circle of friends. And that great circle of friends, we have Nanji Kaka on the call today, Chuni Kaka, who we lost. We had JC, Jitu Kaka. All these friends were also quite entrepreneurial in that time. So what this meant is my dad started working back in the days with a company called Amin and Company. And Amin and Company is where he worked for a while until the friends that I mentioned decided that they need to do something about some or what to do. So as Nanjika was on the call, the first project they did as friends was Liberty Biscuits. And Liberty Biscuits is a pride project for the group of friends and again for our family because that's the entry into manufacturing. So dad was not allowed to study. He opened up a shop in Chingola. Again, very successful. It was all early days. We're talking of 70s, not much going on. But what I'm trying to bring out is the spirit to succeed was there. This generation that's on this call, all you guys have done incredible things in your own right. You have all been entrepreneurs who virtually came to Zambia with nothing in your hands. And a lot of you have got amazing success stories. But the success stories have also come with a lot of sacrifices and a lot of hard work. And it's never been a smooth sail all along. And this is something that I wanted to acknowledge to everybody on this call that, it's so amazing that how the story of migration led to lots and lots of lovely stories. So from 71 with Liberty Biscuits, my dad started Telefix. Telefix was also a shop on Chisakuni Avenue, as people might remember. So Telefix was there. We went into other projects. And in 1980, early 80s, the same group of friends decided that they should enter the textile field. So in 1981, 82, again, the same group of friends said, let's set up a textile mill. So at that time, this was the first textile that was put up as Andola Weaving Textiles. And I remember as a young child going with my dad to the site where the factory was being built. The machinery were coming in from Germany. Again, I keep coming back. It was their unity as a group of friends who were entrepreneurial in their own right to start setting up such projects. So Andola Weaving is where my dad spent, I would say, 15, 20 years at least. Nanjikata can give real proper numbers on that. And during that time, I think they did extremely well. The entrepreneur side again, whilst he was doing that, we acquired a company which was a shoe manufacturing company. So in Andola, we also had Twinkle Shoes. So my mom is also on this call and she ran Twinkle Shoes. So it was good to see my parents as entrepreneurs doing what they did. My dad was at the textile, my mom was running a shoe factory, and she was working with all the workers in getting production and getting sales done and getting things out. And as a young child, I was within the factory helping out. So what I'm trying to bring out before I go to my story is I was brought up in an environment in Andola with entrepreneurs all around me. And everybody around us were entrepreneurs. And you guys on this call were incredible entrepreneurs, which led our generation, the youngsters, to say, wow, if our parents and our kakas and kakis and all that can do some of these things, we need to try and keep that up. I was fortunately sent to a great school. And that great school also comes back to Nanji Kaka, who's on this call, because before that, there was somebody called Ranjit, and they found a school in Rajasthan called Mayo College. Now, Mayo College was a school for the Prince of Rajasthan, and all the royal family went to that. And it wasn't until 1967 that they opened it up to the public. So it was a very royal school, and Mayo was also connected to Eton School in the UK. So Mayo had a program with Eton, and it was also known as the Eton of India. The school that we went to with, again, Ketan, I know Ketan, I remember him, Ketan Patel, who him and I used to travel to India together. But it was a fantastic school. It gave you the foundation that one would need. And the foundation was no matter what life throws at you, you need to remain positive and keep at it. So I went to one of the best schools in India, thanks to, again, not thanks to, but in Zambia, we didn't have the education after our primary school. Simba School did not exist back then, and higher secondary or university was not quite as much. So our parents didn't have much choice but to send us abroad to boarding school. So as young kids, the sacrifice that our parents made was to send the kids away to boarding schools. And the sacrifice was we did not get the love as we should get from our parents, but that was part and parcel of growing up in Zambia. And that was part and parcel of the journey that we were set on. All being that I finished in India and came to the UK in 1989. And originally the plan was to come to the UK, do my education, and head back to Zambia. The family had a lot of things going on, and in the entrepreneurs things that were going on, besides Andola weaving textiles, the group of friends and beyond went on to set up a spinning mill, inspired by Ramesh Kaka on this call. I mean, swap spinning was by far, far ahead. But the group that we were part of wanted to set up a plant as well. So Starflex Textiles was also born back in the days. And Starflex was a combination of companies. It was Andola Weaving Textiles, Andola Knitting Mills, Liberty Biscuits, and Twinkle Shoes. So these companies came together for a giant project, Starflex. And again, that brings that entrepreneur spirit amongst the kakas and dad uh, that happened. So I came to the UK, wanted to do my degree, which I did. I did my accounting and finance bachelor's degree here from Manchester, and I went on to do ACC and SEMA. Now, before I go further, the siblings on my mom's side, she is the daughter of Sitaram Bhai Bhatti, C.C. Patel and Company back in the days, and there are 6 siblings. So my Masi is in Lusaka, PG Electric, Manju Masi, Jagu Mama in Los Angeles, Jagdish Patel. My Masi is Padma Patel in Los Angeles, Jitu Patel in New Jersey, and Subhash Patel. These are my mamas. So again, I'm just giving you the first level of the family. Now I'll come to my story and our siblings, myself, my elder brother Pankaj, he's done his bachelor's in accounting, ACCA, which is your certified accounting, CMI is your management accounting, and he had the energy to go on and do his MBA from the Edinburgh University. So again, Harriet Watt is where he went and did his MBA. So I think the one thing Zambia taught us is our parents said education, 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 and they would not back off from education. And we were like, why do we have to do all this? We could come and run the factories. But it was not about coming and running the factories. It was about the education that you need to go through in case you didn't have those factories. And I'm so grateful for the decisions that our parents took today, because it's that education foundation that we got has helped us get to where we are. Now, I finished my degree and I said, right, what next? I'm now an accountant, but I think accountants are boring. Sorry for accountants on this call. I did not want to go and practice accounting. I was always looking at how do we go and set up a business ourselves. I was the first generation in the UK, and unfortunately, we didn't have that pot. And growing up in a privileged environment, I think the kakas and everybody, you are also all guilty for making our life quite easy. We grew up with cars and we grew up with servants and we grew up with all these things. So you made this generation, which is my generation, a little bit lazy as well. We had everything put on a golden plate for us, which you guys did. But when we moved out, there was no golden plate. We had to figure things out ourselves. And that's where the new challenges of moving into a new Western world comes in. Zambia, you guys had your sacrifices, everything. So being an entrepreneur, I said, right, I should do something. Wasn't privileged enough to have the backing of the cash that is required to start here. And in a way, I'm glad that that cash was not available, because that made me who I am today. So I started a company called Innovative Products. And my mama was running a company called Sitlax in the US, and there was something called a roti maker. So I imported the roti maker to the UK for the first time, and we were the exclusive importers of that. Now, what did that mean? My beginning is on the streets of London. And whilst it may not be comprehensible, that's how I started. And we had to set up stalls on the street to demonstrate a product and sell. The beginning of everything I've done was on the streets of Southall, on the streets of Wembley, Alperton, where we were on the road hustling to sell. I had my friends from Andola who joined me in the company. So Ramnik Kaka has left this call. So Ramnik Vagela's son, Dharmesh Vagela, was with me. Bachu Bapa, Bachu Vagela, his son Bhavin was with me. And Dhansu Kaka, who's on the call, his son Rakesh. Rakesh Vagela was with me as well. So us young boys were trying to figure out what to do in the UK because hang on, this is a new market. Now, Andola Spirits. This is where Andola Spirits comes in. Now, I know Ramnik has left this call. However, how do you make roti, right? So can you imagine back then Ramnik Kaka's mom, Ba, would make rotli no lot every day for us. Ke poirao, tame demonstration karwa jawana, airo lot. So Ba would make the lot for us. We'd go out and we'd make rotli for all the masis and kakis who came, and we had to sell the product. And that's how we started. The support we also got was immense from Nila Auntie. And again, Nila Auntie is no longer with us. But between Ba and Nila Auntie, we had tremendous support as young boys who didn't even know how to make roti in a lot. But they taught us how to do puran puri, and they taught us how to do aluna paratha and all that. So we figured out, they taught it, and we played at home when we sold product. So what I wanted to bring in is looking at how the environment was in Zambia. We were going to start afresh in the UK, and it didn't matter what we did. Nothing was too small or big, but we had to do what we had to do to come and survive in this market, which was extremely tough back then. And racism existed quite extensively in the UK as well. However, going through all this, it made us stronger. We went shop to shop, we went city to city, and we started selling product. And all this led to lots of traveling as well across the UK and making contacts. The next step of my life was, how do we continue trading? All I knew was Africa, because as a young child, I would travel with my dad, South Africa, Zimbabwe, all the trade fairs, go to Tanzania, go to Kenya. That's what we knew. We didn't know anything else beyond Africa. So I started trading, buying and selling product. I also had my own brand of whiskeys, guys. So I had negotiated a 3-year blend, which was the cheapest we could buy, with a distillery in Scotland. And that brand was what I had. And I was selling lots and lots of whiskey, brandy, etc. in Angola, in Mozambique, Malawi, Kenya. So we were selling products and alcohol. So it might be seen as alcohol, but it was fun. As soon as you land at any airport and they knew you're coming with a bag full of testers, you were welcomed really nicely, and everybody wanted to be part of the testing session. So we were having a shot of whiskey at 9 in the morning, and I had to remain sober all day to ensure I got my sales wrapped up. I started traveling with the London Chamber of Commerce and the Department of Trade and Industry at a very young age when I was 26. And at 26, I was traveling with CEOs of Macy Ferguson, CEOs of Oxford University Press. These were giant companies that the UK sent out as trade delegations. And here I was, Atul, but a young child, no experience whatsoever, but joining these delegations. But I was coming back with the highest orders, and people could not understand how a young entrepreneur was coming back with $300,000 of orders on a single trip, which was unbelievable. But I see myself as a salesman, and I see myself as somebody who can actually convince somebody that the product's good. So relying on my skills, it was all about survival because we didn't have a fallback. Whilst I say I used to come back with this, the journey has been extremely difficult. The UK has not been easy. Every step of the way, there have been challenges. And every step of the way, we've had to fight with circumstances, fight with trying to survive. The one thing that comes out of all this is what Zambia taught and what you guys on this call did. You guys trusted each other. You built great relationships. And the biggest weakness a lot of Zambians had is "Ape karvo che dhanda, chalo kariye," but the documentation was always poor. And that poor documentation, which some of what I learned, unfortunately, was also my weakness because that's the environment I grew up on. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but in the Western world, if you didn't get your documentation right in agreements and you relied on a handshake, if things went wrong, you tend to lose a lot. So we've gone and I've gone through processes where, uh, coming from that background of entrepreneurship, I have fallen down because we have not kept good documentation, contracts, etc. in place. My journey with One World begins in 1998. But prior to that, 1997, I had lots of pressure. Get married. Most young boys do not want to get married. I kept dodging it till I could not dodge it. My parents, everybody were telling, I got to get married. So luckily, I found somebody very nice who's still my wife, Alpa Bhatta. She's also here, but she was a Bhatia. Now, how do you get married to a Bhatia? Because in the UK, they did not understand who Bhattas were. So I had another problem to get married. Now, in this situation, they were Bhatia. So I said, hang on, I know Natukata. So I gave Alpa's parents the reference of Natukata on this call, and also Ranjan Masi, who's not here, from PBL Jewelers, that, hey, if you guys want to have any reference on who we are, please reach out to this guy. So again, Andola connection comes in use, and those Andola connections, they reached out to Natukata, okay, Abada Conche, this is Bhatta, and are they Muslim or are they, who are these people? Ato Kabir ne follow kareche, are they Muslim ke suche, you know? So we had those issues. But luckily we had good Andola connections and they gave the references which led to Alpa and I finally getting married. But what I need to also say here is because my mom and dad were still in Andola, um, at my engagement, we needed to have some video. So my engagement was done by Ramni Kaka and Nila Auntie here in the UK because from Zambia, my mom and dad called them, oh, Ramnik bhai, tame loko ane engage kari aavo, pati jase. That's it. So off we go and got engaged and finally we got married. So from our marriage, we got two kids. We got Nikita, who's now 20, she's going to be 21 this year, and Abhay, who is 19. So both are at university, and Nikita is going to go into biomedical chemistry, and Abhay is going into mechanical engineering. So we have kids, we want to put them through good education. I come back to One World. I started working because business was not doing well. Africa was always difficult. There was always politics. And I started working at one point because there was no business at all. And all the promises of orders and LCs never happened. Civil wars, political corruption, lack of foreign exchange. We all know the story of that. And that means I could not trade at the level I could. So I started working for a company where they were doing air freight and courier. I had no idea about air freight or courier, no idea whatsoever. But one thing I knew is I could sell. So my boss back then, I said, I don't know this. And he was my mentor and he taught me what it was. And they had also started a courier company back in then. And that was a courier company called One World Express. And One World Express was sending couriers into Africa in record time at prices one could never believe. And I could not understand the mathematics, being an accountant, behind them doing that business. And that intrigued me into acquiring shares into that company. So in 1999, I acquired a share in One World Express, which was the beginning of my journey with the company that we've built today. And this was by mistake. An accountant into logistics or courier does not go. So we went through a series of timelines. The company had lost a lot of money, and it was time to use the accounting knowledge to turn the company around. When you lose money and the banks will not support you, it is extremely, extremely difficult. There have been times when there was absolutely no funds in the company. And I'm sure all of you can relate to some of these things that I'm sharing with you today. You've all gone through these things. But our generation now is coming through from the UK. First generation, do we make sacrifices? Absolutely, we have. And do we continue to make sacrifices? Yes, we will. So, in terms of timeline, in 2006, I started traveling extensively to build a network across Africa. And we had an office in Kenya, in Nairobi. We had a presence in Johannesburg, and we also had a presence in Lagos. Now, with these three key hubs in Africa, we were servicing the continent on distribution. And we were also selling a return product in these markets to, to expand and build our business. In Kenya, we got sold out to a company called Aramex. So we built the second largest courier company in Kenya in 5 years, which eventually got bought out. So that was a little story in Africa. Come 2008, I was in China. And I think China is where the real story begins. China was looking to expand, and e-commerce back in 2008, nobody knew what e-commerce was. Nobody knew what online buying or selling was in 2008. We were invited by a company we were doing business with to set up a warehouse in the UK. And that was for eBay. And they wanted the sellers to send their goods that they were selling into the UK, where we will manage these orders. And that was the beginning of our journey, moving away from business to business transactions, moving into business to consumer. We started helping that, and we realized we didn't have the technology, or there was no technology available out there to manage e-commerce. It was about connecting data from the time you purchase. So many of us purchase goods online. The minute you purchase goods, that data is available with the merchant through a distribution center, through dispatching, all the way to a delivery that the parcel comes to you. So how would one connect all the data points is what we did. So we are not being a technical person, we had to become a technology company as well. In 2011, we started building a technology platform which would allow us to connect all the pieces. And that's the technology that allowed us to grow further. In 2014, we were the first foreign company to set up an operation in China for cross-border e-commerce. And we entered China in 2014 with a view of, one, educating, and two, building a company. Now, I go back to my weakness. When I entered China, I did not draw up the necessary agreements. I trusted people, and we set up. And within 3 years, we built a company that was doing over $30 million of business out of China. And that means as a group, we were doing close to 50 or $60 million in business very, very quickly. And this is top line revenue. However, the one thing that I got caught out was paperwork, and China came back and there was an internal fraud. And what that fraud meant in 2017, we were back down. And we should have shut this company down because we had a major fraud. And if you try to take somebody to task in China, you can forget it. So we came back to a position where we would have no business, and we were nearly out of business. So what I'm telling you is the ups and downs has been unbelievable. In 2017, the decision was, do we continue trading or do we shut down? Stubborn, entrepreneur, positive, that's who I am. We continued, and in the process, we landed a massive contract with eBay in China. So we are today the trading partner and delivery partner for eBay in China. That was what saved us. We today look after UPS in the US for their distribution. We're also looking after the operations of some of these big players today. So a company that should have gone out of business, and that comes with a lot of stress. Some of the journey meant the stress and pressure led to diabetes, but again, this is where we are. Now, with eBay, we are now expanding into potentially helping them with a UK to the world distribution. We're also now looking at opening up in Germany. We're also looking at opening up in the Netherlands. Over the last couple of years, we also opened up in Singapore, in the Philippines, the UAE, Germany, and the US. So, with what happened to this company in 2017, we had to shut everything down. There was no choice. And before we took those decisions, we had about 250 people in China. We had people in the Philippines, the US, all that. All in all, close to 300 people working under the brand One World. So what I'm trying to come to is it has been a tremendous journey with a real solid fall. And here we are. 3 years later, we're back up there and looking for further expansions. And we are rolling out a technology platform soon. Amongst all this, my mom and dad moved to the UK. And dad unfortunately had a lot of things that went wrong with operations. He had gone in and out of hospitals a lot. So we had on the personal side, we had a lot of things to take care of. And that was also difficult whilst you're trying to build a business. Mom is with us today. She was standing by us. Alpa was working. So without the support and without the discussions we've had with them, there was no way we could have come through this way. Alpa and I would not have made it where we are if we didn't have the support of mom and dad. And those of you who knew dad know how entrepreneurial he was. I'd love coming back home and having a chat with him, and he'd say, "Come on, go and do this, and let's let's do this. Good luck on your deal." And the moment I remember is when I was going to Bali, and when he was really ill, and I was speaking at an event in Bali, and I said, "Dad, shall I cancel this trip?" And he's like, "Are you crazy? I'm absolutely fine. Go get the deal." And that's the energy he had. It was all about go get the deal. Go and do something positive. And that energy, I still feel it today. Now, it didn't matter how ill he was or unwell, he was always positive. And the bottom line of everything is you have to remain positive. Life is going to throw lots and lots of downs to you, lots of bads to you. And if you don't remain positive and if you can't continue, unfortunately, you can't go through all that. And that trip I remember because I took off from the UK. I got to Dubai and I had a call that he's not doing well. And I didn't make it to Bali. I had to turn back and I didn't. So, with that, I just want to let you know that don't give up. It's amazing out there, and positiveness can really get you where you need to be. And with that, I say thank you for letting me speak today. Thank you.